Welcome to the School of Music YouTube channel. We will be live streaming most of our concerts and recitals this semester on this channel. We have been thrilled to be able to offer live music again, albeit still through a screen, and hope that you tune in often. For an upcoming list of events, please see our School of Music webpage at music.missouri.edu under Events. Almost all of these events are still offered with no charge, but you are always welcome to provide a scholarship donation to our Friends of Music Fund if you like what you hear. These students and faculty work very hard to rehearse and produce these concerts, and I hope you enjoy their efforts. Thank you for your support of the MU School of Music.
Hey everyone, I'm Jacob Gottlieb, Managing Director of the Mizzou New Music Initiative here at the University of Missouri School of Music. I'm thrilled to welcome back the Khemia Ensemble, who tonight will perform a program of new works composed specifically for them by 5 of our composition students. It's been a terrific experience for our students as they've been learning how to navigate music making and collaboration in these challenging times. The results are fantastic, and I know that you'll love hearing them as much as the students loved writing them and as much as Khemia enjoyed performing and recording them. This event is part of Khemia's virtual residency at Mizzou, and we've been keeping them busy with concerts, presentations, and private lessons throughout the week. Last night, they performed a terrific virtual concert of solo works. This Friday, they'll be speaking to our composers virtually in their composition seminar, and the group will also be giving studio master classes throughout the week. Thank you again for supporting new music at Mizzou, and enjoy tonight's performance.
Hi, I'm Kahng, violinist and co-artistic director of Khemia Ensemble.
And I'm Amy Petrongelli, vocalist and co-artistic director of Khemia Ensemble alongside Ergene.
It's Khemia's second day in residency at Mizzou, and we are thrilled to present virtual premieres of 5 Mizzou student works by Isabelle Borchardt, Holden Franklin, Emily Shaw, Jack Snelling, and Sam Whitty.
We've had the opportunity to collaborate with these fantastic students via Zoom meetings and through email over the past several months, and this has helped us to consult with them on their work. As much as we wish we could be doing it in person, we've made the most of being virtual. After getting a final score from all 5 composers, we as an ensemble worked collaboratively across the United States to record our parts individually and begin to layer them.
Thank you, composers, for allowing us to perform your works and being creative, flexible, and resilient in this unconventional collaboration process.
We want to hear from you during the performance, so please let us know where you're tuning in from and ask us questions and drop us a line in the chat. Thanks for sharing this music with us and enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Tinsler Jones, Director of Operations and Percussionist with Khemia Ensemble, and I'm here with Isabelle Borchardt to chat about her composition Earth's Journey, which is written for soprano, violin, and 2 percussionists. So Isabelle, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you.
And my first question is, what inspired the ideas and the text for your piece?
This piece was inspired by, I had to take a lab science to graduate, and so I took this one. It was an honors course in the honors college about from the molecules to the cosmos, basically like everything that happened on Earth, so that they didn't have to like hone in on anything. And I was kind of interested in the class because I'd never heard any of it before. Like in science class, I'd never really learned that like, oh, there really was a point where there was no life on Earth and it slowly developed and the great extinctions and stuff like that. And I thought it would be really great to write a piece inspired by the idea that life has had these fluctuations way before people came, that it will happen way after humans are gone. And I just was really interested in the concept. So I kind of wanted to write a piece from the perspective of Earth and like what it's like going through all these changes all the time and how crazy of a journey it's been, even before the short time that humans have been here.
Wow, and you summed up the whole journey of the Earth in 4 or 5 minutes. So that's really impressive.
I tried to get it 4.5 minutes because the Earth has been around for 4.5 billion years. So it was like supposed to be kind of aligning, hopefully.
Yeah, I love that. I didn't make that connection. So you use a lot of unique instruments and sounds in your piece. For instance, the violin gets to perform a bunch of extended techniques, and the percussion parts, we get to play some really distinctive sound effects, like rubbing together plastic bags. That was the first time I ever got to do that in a piece. And wrestling plastic bottle caps. So what was your process in choosing these particular sounds?
Yeah, so I think immediately my mind went when having two percussionists that I really wanted to go into the idea of like what does percussion mean, and it's already expanding what the idea of what noise can be by having, things like drums that like they're so much different than string instruments and it's all encapsulating. So I knew I wanted to have some extended ideas in there. And then when doing research on that, I found like Foley, which is like what they use for movies to make sound effects. And I was like, this is how people for movies create sounds that are in the world and try to recreate them. So why can't I do something like that in a music piece, in a music setting, kind of playing with John Cage's idea of like what really qualifies as music versus noise. So I really like the idea of using those techniques that aren't traditionally in music to represent something that music isn't traditionally about. So I thought that those kind of went together. For the violin, like as a violinist, I always want to have something in there that would be fun to switch it up rather than just playing simple. And I thought with the extended techniques going on in the percussion, I might as well add some to the violin as well.
What was your experience like working with Khemia to realize your piece?
Yeah, I think it's been a very positive experience because through email, we've been keeping in contact a lot. So whenever I was trying to figure out what percussion instruments I was wanting to do, I was able to email back and forth with you, and you sent me sounds of different instruments that I hadn't heard before, and I got to figure out using for that. So I think working with the Khemia Ensemble was a smoother composition process, always being able to reach out and ask questions, and all of you were so great about responding, and not just responding like yes or no, but being like, hey, like this is something you could do if you're going for this feel, and giving me even more ideas for composing. So it was a really positive composition process. And then post composition, you guys have been good about communicating where you are in the process and asking questions after when you have them, which has just been really great. I don't know if I've ever had like that clear of communication with an ensemble before, because usually it's like, I'm writing a piece for you, here it is. And it was able to be more of a collaboration, which as an undergrad student is really unique and really exciting as a composer, to be able to ask questions and get answers and be like treated as an equal. It was really fun.
Well, we really loved putting your piece together, and we hope everybody enjoys Earth's Journey.
awaken land and light. Life can live. Somehow life always returns. Sometimes good. Sometimes bad. Sometimes strong. Sometimes gone. There is no life without me. There is no life. Once again I will grow. I was lifeless.
Hi everyone, my name is Annie Jeng and I'm the pianist of Khemia Ensemble. And I'm delighted to speak to the composer of our next piece, Emily Shaw. And I'm going to turn it over to her to introduce herself a little bit.
Hi, I'm Emily Shaw. I'm a third-year composer at Mizzou studying under Dr. Onishi. And I'm very happy to be able to have written this piece for Khemia Ensemble and be able to hear it.
Awesome. Well, I will have to tell you, it's been a delight to work on this piece. You've written 3 waltzes that are all very, very different. So I'd love for you to maybe speak a little bit about the piece and what your inspiration was in writing this.
Yeah, so I think my main inspiration for this was how different emotions can vary throughout the day, depending on setting. And especially, I think, because in quarantine, you really feel how different the emotions are because your surroundings aren't necessarily that different. So, pre-COVID, maybe I would feel very differently if I was at school and then I was at the grocery store and then I'm at home. But then when you're just at home all the time, you really realize, like, okay, maybe in the morning, like when you wake up, it's like I feel like it's morning, but I'm not sure. Like, there's not enough structure telling me it's morning now. So the 3 waltzes each signify a different time of the day. The first one is meant to be like the morning time. It's called Medicine in the Morning. And it's meant to be kind of like the going through the motions when you wake up, like, you get out of bed, maybe make your bed, open a window, but there's not really like you personally don't feel any inspiration for being awakened. It's just another day that's all the same. And so in that piece, I kind of wanted to have like this sweet feeling, but that wasn't anything special or out of the ordinary. And it just kind of goes through the motions, a little mechanical, because it's like, it's a feeling that's not inherently bad. It's just there. It just is.
What about the other two waltzes?
So the second waltz is meant to be kind of like late afternoon for me is kind of the most emotionally charged time of the day because it's like usually when you've gotten a good chunk of your day done, like work done, but then you're thinking about what you still have to do, but you're kind of hitting that like afternoon slump, you're a little tired. So usually if I'm going to have some sort of panic attack or something, it will happen in the afternoon, and that's what the second piece is meant to be. It's like really just kind of like a heavy, like brash, loud piece driven by piano, and it's meant to like kind of signify that like kind of like breaking point and like internalize maybe like frustration or anger, like that things perhaps aren't going the way you want it to, or maybe even frustration at how similar everything is every day. So it's kind of just like it can be taken either as sort of like a panic attack feeling, but it also can be taken as more of like a frustrated, like internalizing frustrating feeling. And
Wow, I could definitely hear that in the music.
Yeah, that's good. The third waltz is meant to be a kind of like dissociative period. I dissociate a lot. I have a dissociation problem. So that to me, I wanted it to kind of, it's called Threads to Hold On To. And I wanted it to be kind of like invoke the feeling of like floating, or like that you're not really sure what's going to come next. There's a lot of uncertainty, I think, in the meter, even though it's in 3/4. There's a lot of overlapping between measures and sections, so that I wanted it to feel a little like there wasn't anything to ground you in the piece until the end. So it's just kind of like a melancholy, like floating evening time.
So the other really cool thing about this piece is that you have these electronic interludes, which I haven't heard yet, and I'm really excited because it's going to be like almost like an unveiling surprise for me once I hear the whole thing put together. So can you speak a little bit about these interludes?
Yeah. So I came up with these because each piece is kind of so different, and I just wanted something to maybe connect them and make it a bit more cohesive. So these electronics are basically taking the mood from like the first waltz and the second waltz, and then kind of like making a little connective space between them. So each of the like interludes takes a little bit of the pitch material and then transforms it into a kind of not like necessarily musical in a way, like it's not as structured musically as and tonally as the waltzes, but just more of a like interlude that can provide like almost some context for the waltzes.
I love that. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but just you speaking about disassociation and the threads, especially in that last movement, it's like these interludes are kind of the thread between all three.
Yeah. That's a really cool way of thinking about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me, and just really looking forward to hearing what your final piece sounds like.
Yeah, of course, it was so nice, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. It was really good to like talk to you, meet you over Zoom. And I'm very, very excited to hear the performance. Sorry.
Jack Snelling, thank you so much for your time to talk about your piece. Can you maybe open by first telling us a little bit about your bio? What kind of inspired you to go into composition? What was the moment that, composition took fire for you?
For a lot of composers, I feel like music has been like a very important thing in their life since they were super young. That really wasn't the case with me. I kind of grew up in a household where no one really played instruments. My dad always claimed to have played saxophone when he claimed to say that he could have gone pro playing saxophone, but his parents, my grandparents, made him quit when he was little. So I was introduced to music by my uncle, who was a band director, and he got me involved with a piano teacher who taught all of the high school pianists. And from there, composing was just kind of thing that I just started to just do on my own when I would get bored and just mess around. I was very lucky to have the support of the Sinkfields, who have been very generous with their financial support and the programs that they've put on. So I've been involved with Mizzou's summer comp camp, which I know that you guys have done work at before, and then I've also participated in their comp program while I was in high school. And then because of all those connections, that's why I came here to study composition.
Yes, so let's talk about your piece, Jack. You composed Awaken for Khemia Ensemble. I was very struck by the score, so I was hoping that you could talk a little bit about the color coding.
Since this piece is recorded asynchronously, I decided to get creative with the way that it does get performed. The way it works is each performer plays the same music, but spaced apart by 30 seconds. So, for example, the cellist will begin the piece by themselves playing the melody, and then after 30 seconds, they keep going and do their own thing. But at the 30-second mark, the clarinetist enters playing the same melody, but this time up a major ninth. So it's a little bit in a different key, but the time relationships is the same. So every part is at a different point when each instrument enters. So because of that, that's why I kind of decided to opt for a visual score, so I can kind of show you what that looks like. I figured it would not be as helpful since each person is recording their part independently of every other person to kind of see exactly what each part has. So I instead chose to simplify it a little bit and show exactly what parts happen where. So I can talk a little bit about what these markings mean. So the red marks are stuff that apply to the entire ensemble. So they could be rehearsal letters so everyone knows where they are, or they can be mood markings. Even though each person's music is the same, I took a lot of liberties with mood markings and timbres and colors and stuff that I'm playing with. Even though everyone's playing different music, for example, at D, the entire ensemble should be sounding something that's like pastoral, like expressive, like you're singing like a farm song or something like that. The orange marks refer to tempo markings, the purple refers to dynamics, and those can change within each part. And then the blue ones are really interesting. That is where what I try to do was align two parts with each other specifically, even though they're both playing different music, and so the lining up was a little bit tough. So, for example, the clarinet lands on the third measure of their playing at the same time that the cellist lands on I think it's like the third triplet of the third beat of the third bar or something like that. Those moments I think are pretty important to the piece, so that's why I kind of chose to mark them in. Those spots are also lined up in the parts too, so that every performer, you can kind of go to the score and see, oh, violin plays A3 right there, and it's lined up with vibraphone, so I should be lining up with vibraphone right there. So it's also helpful for the sound engineer too, for when everything is trying to get lined together at the very end.
Yes, this is so beautiful and so creative, Jack. I am so interested to know that, as we spoke earlier, these color codings and the sort of graphic notation almost seems like a private note to the performer because, of course, eventually the listener will not be aware of all of these color coding, systems that have happened in the score. But as a composer, what is your personal hope, if you could name maybe one or two things as the ultimate takeaway for listeners of Awaken?
As the sun touched the skies and fields in the early morning, he felt as though he was not alone, and all the world was holding his hand and warming his bare feet, together watching a hand of light reach up and touch the heavens. I'm trying to evoke the image of a sunrise happening, and different areas of the world being woken up as that sunrise is coming up. So, for example, maybe the cellist playing like in the very lowest notes of its register is maybe the ground waking up beneath you, and maybe the flute is like a bird song or something like that. And the percussionist maybe is the hustle and bustle of cars driving by. These facets of the world are all waking up at different times, but I kind of wanted to make a point that they are all at heart the same, and kind of that's why I incorporated having every performer play the same music. I'm a lover of sunrises and sunsets, and I try and get out and watch them as often as I can. I think that at those moments, the world is very much the same for everyone, and it's the birds and the bugs and all facets of life are watching that sunset the same as we are.
Well, my name is Mary Matthews, and I am flutist with the Khemia Ensemble. And I'm here today with Sam Whitty, who's one of the student composers at the University of Missouri. So, Sam, thank you so much for joining me today and for doing this interview.
Thank you for having me.
And can you go ahead and start just by introducing yourself and telling me a little bit about your background and where you are in your studies at Mizzou?
Yeah, so I am doing a BM in composition at the University of Missouri. I'm a sophomore. My main instrument is the cello, and so I was really happy to be able to play or compose for my professor, Dr. Lara, at the University of Missouri. I am maybe one of the younger students of composition at Missouri, but I am really excited for the opportunities that we get here already. And so I am just really happy that I get to work with the Khemia Ensemble, and I'm excited to hear you guys play it.
Good. So in your studies, you're a sophomore right now. How many pieces have you had performed start to finish where you got to work with the ensemble and hear the premiere?
I've only had about 4 pieces performed where I got to work with the ensemble. One of those was with my high school string orchestra, and so that was really special. That was the first time I ever got to do that. But I actually worked with the Khemia Ensemble one other time during the summer comp camp here at Mizzou. And so that was also very fun. And I am very excited to work with you guys again.
Oh, thank you. How exciting. So you attended that institute as a high school student. And then was that one of the reasons you wanted to attend for college?
Definitely. It was an experience that I'll never forget.
So your piece is titled The Scholars Menagerie. I've got it on my stand over here. Can you talk to me a little bit about the inspiration behind the piece and the title and how that all came together?
So the piece is really it's supposed to be academic in nature, not in the way it's composed, but how it sounds. And it's supposed to sound really refined and well thought out in that kind of way, like you're listening to somebody thinking or like studying in that setting. And the parts for the piece were intentionally composed so that you would play it virtually and not together. And so it's almost like you've got animals in different cages, kind of just like talking not to each other, but just doing all their calls out loud, not intentionally together, but it all comes in and mixes together and it makes its own sound. Yeah.
Wow, I love that. I love that imagery. And that definitely it works well with what we're doing, because as much as, we listen to the click track or we try and layer and listen to each other as we go, in a lot of ways, recording during this time isolated can feel like you're just in your own cage and bubble and just hope that it all works together. So I think that's really cool and interesting that you went into it with that idea in mind. Have there been any other real differences in writing for a virtual remote premiere versus an in-person premiere where the ensemble would be all in one room?
Yes. So it is really cool to be able to compose for people that are not playing together, because you can have parts that are not synchronized together, and you can have the time signatures not line up. And so the bar lines are not equal on the page, and the measure numbers are not equal either. So the cello may be playing at measure 42, but the flute is playing at measure 45. So that is one of the things that I think is really interesting, that you can kind of mix and match all of the parts together. I think the other thing is the rehearsal process and how you're not working with everybody together, but they all it's a really one-on-one experience when you're talking to performers about the piece. And so I think that is really unique about this process.
And then my last question is just about the instrumentation. So I imagine you've composed for cello before as a cellist. Yes. Is this your first time composing for any one of the instruments, or have you written for all as individuals before?
I've written another piece with a similar instrumentation. Instead of piano, it was marimba, and instead of cello, it was bassoon. And so this is pretty similar to that composition and the way I was trying to use those elements. But it's always nice to work with professional performers, and you always learn new things about the instruments when you're writing for them. And even with the cello, Dr. Lara was like, there are some things that need to be changed. And so I think that's it's always nice to have those experiences.
Hey everyone, my name is Shane. I'm a percussionist for Khemia Ensemble, and I've got Holden Franklin here. He's a composer for one of our pieces. So Holden, can you tell us a little bit about your musical background?
Yeah, so I'm a third year undergraduate studying music composition with Dr. Yoshiaki Onishi here at the University of Missouri in Columbia. Other than that, I sing, I play a little bit of piano, and I've been composing now for about 10 years.
Awesome. We got to work with Yoshi last year. He's great. He's fantastic. So in the piece that you wrote, Human's Final Plea to Earth, you use text and themes about global warming. Can you talk a little bit more about your inspiration for the piece?
Yeah, so I was raised on a farm. I always grew up around nature. I was always really close to nature and everything. And this past semester, this fall 2020 semester, I took an online course. It was biological sciences course, and I took it with Dr. Robin Hurst, and she had a whole section on climate change, and it really got in depth on everything that's happening and how there's all these snowball effects that are happening, right? So like with deforestation, when you cut down a tree, you not only release all the carbon from that tree in the atmosphere, which makes the climate more warm and radical, but you also stop that tree from taking carbon from the air and storing it into the ground. And then usually after they do those deforestations, they start digging into the earth and everything, and then that disrupts more carbon going into the earth, going from the earth into the air. And then even farther than that, the carbon raising the global temperatures, they melt the glaciers and the sea ice, and those also have thousands and thousands of carbon just like stored inside of the ice. So, right, can you see how there's like a cycle of how it melts the ice, it puts more carbon into the air, and then that warms it even more, which melts more ice. So it's just like this snowball effect that's happening, and it's a little intimidating, and I wanted to put out this piece to show everyone just how important climate change is.
It's like one action causes another one and another one and another one and another one, and then eventually comes full circle on itself. And in a sense, it feels like it's spiraling out of control, because we become reliant on these actions to function in our society, yet they continue to contribute to things that are destroying our society.
For sure.
Yeah, I understand. So in the piece, Human's Final Plea to Earth, what compositional or sonic techniques do you use to represent the different, I guess I'll call them characters, like the Earth, humans, and the global warming effects?
Throughout the piece, I go back and forth between these like humanistic sounds, which are kind of feeble and fragile and kind of realistic, earthy sounds. And then I go into these other sounds, which are like these ethereal sounds, which is supposed to symbolize the earth. So what I wanted to do is make the earth seem more personal. And so I kind of personified it into this character and had the earth like talk to the humans basically. And so with like the instruments and everything, like in the beginning, I use like the flute's in really low range and it has this like kind of feeble, like wind-like sound. And I use a lot of wind-like percussion instruments like the mark tree and the rain stick and brush on the snare drum and all those things. So, and then for like the ethereal earth sounds, I use like a lot of like thunderistic and large, like almost natural disaster sounds.
Awesome. Well, it's been really fun to record the piece, and I hope everyone is able to get these points that you're trying to portray in the score. And I hope that we all can take this message about global warming and we can move forward with some positive light. So thanks so much for agreeing to be in the interview and for writing this piece for us.
Thank you so much for having me and playing my piece and everything. It means a lot to me.
I gave them life, and they killed me.
Thank you so much for watching the virtual premiere of these 5 brand new works by Mizzou student composers performed by Khemia Ensemble. Collaborating and mentoring students is part of our mission as artist educators, and we are so impressed by the tenacity of students at Mizzou.
You keep inspiring us, which is so fantastic. We want to give a special thank you once again to our audio engineer, the amazing Eric Dluzniewski, for making us sound so good and like we're in the same place, even though we're coming to you from 7 different states across 3 time zones. We also want to very deeply thank the Mizzou New Music Initiative, Dr. Jean Sinkfield, the fantastic compositional faculty at Mizzou, Carolina Heredia, Yoshi Onishi, and Stefan Freund, as well as managing director of NMI, Jacob Gottlieb, for organizing Khemia's residency. Thank you so much.
And you can learn more about Khemia Ensemble at our website, khemiaensemble.com, or by following us on Facebook and Instagram at Khemia Ensemble. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great evening.